So the reasons, but not the reason, I wanted to get to the epigraph again. Man, you might say, is nature dreaming, but rock and water and sky are constant. To feel greatly and understand greatly and express greatly the natural beauty is the sole business of poetry, the rest diversion. That comes from, uh, you took the title from the end of The Beauty of Things, and this comes from sort of towards the end, right?
Yeah.
Just discuss the epigraph again. And this may be a weaker play than Tragedy in the Past, but I do think this is certainly a great play. I don't think Francine Simmons is as interesting as Charlotte, but she is in a different way. She's sort of the perfection of beauty in how Danny Wagner sees her. And you still claim that she's the most beautiful woman, at least physically, that you've known of.
Most
correct?
beautiful female. She was 15 or 16. But this is a good example where Dan Schneider, disagree with the epigraph, but it works for the play. I mean, I'm not the beauty to me is neither here nor there when it comes to poetry nor art. But it's a great quote, and the quote and the title derived from the same play work. So again,
I was thinking of that too. How Egon Schiele and Picasso and some of your stuff, Weldon Keys, they have ugliness in their writing, but they're certainly great art.
Yeah, and that's this is where the function is needed to be served, and this seemed like the best thing. And in looking through some poems of Jeffers and thinking, I had a few other ideas for the play titles, which I don't remember now. But once I hit upon this, I said, "Oh, that's the title, and what part of the play could work?" And so you can build the idea of the play upon something you don't believe in. Why not? Why does nothing has to always be an expression of exactly what I feel. Art isn't, it's not like my semen that's inextricably and genetically bound to me. Art is something apart. It's not just Dan Schneider. It's not just me. And this is something that a lot of especially young artists, well, artistic wannabes, need to know and they need to learn. And that's that art. What did I say here? Because I wrote it down here. Now I can't read my own handwriting. That art isn't just about your own emotions. You can't get lost in your own head. You have to go with what works in the moment. You have to have a certain kind of pragmatism, and let those Keatsian negative capable moments come and go as they will. But if it works in the work of art, go with that. That's far more important than any personal expression that you have. Because it's the art ultimately is not about you. Long after I'm dead, long after you're dead, someone watching these conversations, and in 500 years, in some university or something, are not going to give a damn what Dan or Peter ate for breakfast that morning that they talked about this particular play. It doesn't matter.
I wanted to talk about how you vary some things too. Again, Adam and Eldon show up. You do this in the con plays too, where you have the woman in white embodying the crow, but you vary it up a little bit. But I do wonder if you'll sort of do what you did in your heroic trilogy. So, for instance, in the heroic trilogy, you had the first two books that were from the main character's perspective, and then you use the third book as a omniscient, and it sort of varied up the techniques. You seem very good at knowing when to end a great character, a great moment, and then reuse them in a different way, like you did with the Elias Walker character in the heroic trilogy.
Well, the last Khan play is going to be about Kubla Khan, and it's going to be set 30 years, probably 25 to 30 years after the second play. So some of the characters are not. There's only going to be two characters that are going to appear in all three plays, but we'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm. So, speak a bit about Francine Simmons. You have some of the same kind of scenes that happen in the first play, but this seems a more of a you have a bunch of fantasies and fantasies. I like
Yeah.
the interest about how, and you have nudity, and you uh, introduce yourself as a character from these many plays, and say that you may remember me from Janie Fitz, that one featured nudity like no other drama has done, and then you go on to talk that use.
Well, it's been a while. I mean, I don't use gratuity of sexual violence gratuitously. When I use it, it's for a specific purpose. With the Charlotte character, Danny interacted with Charlotte, and in real life, I did with the real Charlotte. With the Fran character, Danny interacted with her in a friendly way, but she had no idea, as far as I know, that uh, she was like the goddess to me. And she's a black girl from Canada, and I was a white kid from New York, and she had a not necessarily a long-standing boyfriend, but a kid on the football team, a black kid that she dated uh, once or twice at least, if not a few other times. And so I thought, well, let since we see Danny getting frustrated by not being able to get close to the first girl, Charlotte, in the first place, let's see how Danny would do if he's having these fantasies. And sure, I had a few sexual fantasies about the real life Fran, but so I wanted to just jump in and immerse you in that this sex thing. And so uh, we have the younger and the older Danny, because the older Danny even says that it would be, as the older actor saying, this would be ridiculous to be with a 15 or 16-year-old girl, even if it's played by an 18 or 19 or 20-year-old actress. So there have to be two Dannys. There has to be the young Danny that's banging the girl in his fantasy, and the older Danny that's watching them and commenting and whatnot. So it's a way to show that she was a fantasy figure, and but not in the sense that Danny's in any way diminished. I mean, this is a natural part of life and whatnot. So why shouldn't Danny have a fantasy about her?